The woman in blue stepped out of the fog and onto the cliff. She stood at the edge of Beach Distillery, her dress glowing pale and wet like it had just been pulled from the sea. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of sadness. The wind howled around her, strong and cold, and the ocean crashed far below. Inside the restaurant, every glass on the shelves began to shake. A man screamed as a chair slid across the floor by itself. Another person pointed at the window, shaking so badly they could not speak, because the woman in blue was now standing inside the room. Her feet did not touch the ground. She raised her hand slowly and whispered, "He lied." The lights went out, and when they came back on, one person was missing. No one knew yet that this was only the first time the Blue Lady would take someone from Beach Distillery, and no one knew who she was coming for next. Long before the screaming, long before the lights went out, Beach Distillery was a quiet place by the ocean. The building sat on tall cliffs in Moss Beach, California, looking out over dark water that never seemed to sleep. Waves hit the rocks below day and night. Fog rolled in often, thick and heavy, hiding the world beyond the windows. During the day, it was beautiful. At night, it felt different. Lucas Bennett noticed that on his first day working there, he was 24 and new to the area. He had moved from Oregon for a fresh start. A job at a popular restaurant by the sea felt like good luck. Best views in town. His manager, Carol Whitman, told him with a smile. Lucas smiled back, but something about the place made his chest feel tight. The walls were old. The floors creaked. And the air always felt cold, even in summer. On his first shift, another server, Jake Miller, leaned close and whispered, "You know about the Blue Lady, right?" Lucas laughed. "A ghost?" Jake nodded. "She shows up sometimes. Always at night. Always near the windows." Lucas didn't believe him. Not then. The first strange thing happened 3 nights later. Lucas was clearing tables when he heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned, expecting a customer. No one was there. Then he felt it. A cold brush against his arm, like wet fabric. He jumped. "Hello," he said. No answer. Later that night, he saw fog move inside the building, even though the doors were closed. Carol noticed his pale face. "You get used to it," she said. "Used to what?" Lucas asked. She paused. "The stories." More things happened over the next week. Glasses slid a few inches across tables. A woman swore someone whispered her name while she ate. The old piano in the corner played one soft note by itself. Every time, the fog was close. One night, Lucas stayed late to help close. The restaurant was empty. The ocean was loud. As he locked the front door, he saw a reflection in the glass. A woman in a blue dress stood behind him. He spun around. Nothing. When he looked back at the glass, the reflection was gone. Lucas told himself it was stress. Then he met Sarah Collins. Sarah was a local. She came in often, always sitting by the window with a cup of tea. She had kind eyes but looked tired, like she carried heavy thoughts. One night, she asked Lucas, "Have you seen her yet?" Lucas swallowed. "The Blue Lady." Sarah nodded slowly. She waits for people who listen. "What does she want?" Lucas asked. Sarah's voice dropped. "Justice." Lucas didn't sleep well that night. A few days later, a storm rolled in. Wind screamed against the building. Rain hit the windows hard. The restaurant was full. At exactly 9:12 p.m., the fog appeared. It slipped in through the walls, thin at first, then thick. People noticed. "What's that smell?" someone asked. "Cold. Salt. Seaweed." The lights flickered. At 9:14, the piano played again. At 9:15, the woman appeared. She stood near the bar, glowing faint blue. Everyone froze. "She's real," someone whispered. The Blue Lady lifted her face. Water dripped from her hair onto the floor. She pointed toward the back hallway. "He knows," she said. A man near the window stood up fast. His name was Mark Dawson. He had been sitting quietly all night, his hands shaking. "I didn't mean to," he yelled. "I didn't." The fog rushed toward him. People screamed and ran. Lucas tried to move, but his feet felt stuck. The Blue Lady floated closer to Mark. "You promise," she said softly. The lights went out. When they came back on, the fog was gone. So was Mark Dawson. Only wet footprints led toward the cliff door. The police came. They searched the rocks below. They never found Mark. The restaurant closed for 2 days. News spread fast. People talked about disappearances, about ghosts, about curses. Lucas wanted to quit, but something inside him wouldn't let him leave. He needed to know the truth. Sarah came back the night they reopened. "She won't stop now," she said. "Why?" Lucas asked. Sarah looked out at the ocean. "Because someone woke her up." That night, Lucas went online and searched old records. What he found made his hands shake. Long ago, during Prohibition, Moss Beach Distillery had been a secret place. People drank, danced, and lied. The Blue Lady had been a real woman. Her name was Evelyn Harper. She loved a man who promised to leave his wife for her. One stormy night, she waited on the cliff. He never came. The next morning, her blue dress was found near the rocks. Some said she fell. Others said she was pushed. The man who lied was never punished. Lucas closed his laptop. A cold wind blew through the room. Behind him, a soft voice whispered, "Here's he." Lucas turned. The fog was already rolling in again, and from the hallway, slow, wet footsteps were coming closer. The wet footsteps stopped right behind Lucas. He could feel the cold through his shirt, like the air itself was touching him. The fog grew thick, wrapping around the tables and chairs. The ocean roared louder than before, as if it were angry. Lucas did not turn around. He was too scared. "Lucas," a soft voice said. It sounded like it came from everywhere at once. Slowly, he turned. The Blue Lady stood only a few feet away. Her blue dress floated gently, even though there was no wind inside. Her hair was dark and wet, and drops of water fell onto the floor, making small circles that never dried. Her eyes met his. They were not angry. They were tired. "You can see me," she said. Lucas nodded. His mouth was dry. "You're Evelyn." She tilted her head. "You know my name." "I know your story," Lucas said. "You were lied to." Her face changed. For a moment, she looked almost alive. "Yes," she whispered. "And now the lies are back." The fog shifted, and Lucas saw something behind her. A man stood near the bar. Older, heavy shoulders, gray hair. Lucas knew him. It was Henry Wallace. Henry was a regular. He came in every Friday night, always alone. He drank slowly and never spoke much. Everyone thought he was just a quiet old man. Henry's hand shook as he backed away. "I didn't do it," he said. "That was my father." Evelyn turned toward him. "He taught you well," she said. The lights flickered hard, then went out. When they came back on, Henry was gone. Only his jacket lay on the floor, wet and cold. People ran screaming out of the building. Lucas stood frozen. Carol grabbed his arm. "We're closing. Now." Police cars returned. Again. This time, there were no answers. Henry Wallace had vanished just like Mark Dawson. 2 men gone, both connected to lies. The restaurant shut down again, this time for a full week. But the fog never left. Lucas couldn't stop thinking about what Henry said. "That was my father." He started digging deeper. Old town records, old newspapers, old photos. What he found made his chest hurt. Evelyn Harper had not been alone on the cliff. A man named Thomas Wallace had been there too. Married, rich, powerful. Evelyn had told people she was going to run away with him. But Thomas never planned to leave his wife. That night, witnesses heard shouting near the cliff. Then a scream. Thomas Wallace said Evelyn slipped. No one questioned him. Years later, Thomas died peacefully. But his son, Henry, grew up hearing the truth in whispers. And Henry had spent his whole life coming back to Moss Beach Distillery, watching, waiting. That night, Lucas dreamed. He stood on the cliff. Fog wrapped around his legs. Evelyn stood beside him. "They all knew," she said, "and they stayed quiet." Lucas woke up with a sharp pain in his arm. On his skin were faint, wet fingerprints. The next evening, the restaurant opened again. Only a few brave people came. At 9:10 p.m., the fog rolled in. At 9:12, The piano played one note. At 9:13, Lucas smelled salt and rain. Sarah sat at her usual table. "She's almost done," Sarah said quietly. "Done with what?" Lucas asked, taking what the sea was denied. Lucas felt a chill. "Is anyone left?" Sarah looked at him. "One." The lights flickered. A man stood near the door. Lucas had never seen him before. He wore a long coat and smiled too easily. "My name is Daniel Harper," the man said. "I think my family once owned this place." Evelyn appeared behind him. Her face changed. This time, she looked angry. "You kept the name," she said. Daniel laughed. "History belongs to the living." The fog rushed forward. Windows rattled. The cliff outside groaned. Daniel tried to run. The door slammed shut by itself. Evelyn raised her hand. The floor shook, and the cliff outside cracked, sending a deep, thunder-like sound through Moss Beach Distillery as the ocean rose up to meet them.